gorgeous Monday morning, and we had a crazy rainy one yesterday. And actually, just before we started, I looked out my window and I noticed that my Adirondack chairs are blown all over the place out front. So I'm gonna have to go get those after the show. But we are ASMM Digital. I am Ann Brennan. This is the Small Business Connections podcast. We are the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. My goal each and every week is to give you something you can walk away with and put to work in your business. So, along those lines, I've got great guests. They're going to give you something, always going to give you something, but I've decided to add to that. So I want to tell you something I wish people knew, and I do this a lot. I wish people knew to start with questions before they started with marketing. In our case, we get a lot of people, they come to us, they've been marketing for a while, they're not sure why it's not working. And we start asking them questions. What is your unique selling proposition? What is it about you that makes you special? We ask them what their core values are. We ask them about their competitors. We ask them what their customers are saying. And the number of times they don't know the answers to this surprise me. Now, people will tell me the thing that makes them special, the thing that makes them stand out is their customer service. Every time they'll tell me that. And the truth is, that's not what makes you stand out. Customer service is something we should all be delivering. It's something most of us are delivering in some fashion. So unless your customer service is 1,000 times better than the next guy, customer service isn't what makes you stand out. So before you start marketing, ask these questions. The reason this has come up today, the reason I'm thinking about it is because I'm starting a branding seminar. And I'm starting this seminar, it'll be on April 5th. It's $25. It's super inexpensive. It'll be a webinar, so you'll be able to get it online. I'm going to go through all the questions I ask my clients before we start. But I'm going to go through it in a way that's going to help you understand how to get to the answers, how to dig deep and find those answers. It's very, very helpful. Our clients who have gone through it have really had great experiences with it. They're like, oh my God, I've never thought of these things. And it has helped us to design a program, a marketing program that really works for them. Please do tune into that. Please do come and register for that. $25 is super easy. It will make you, 20 times that amount of money if you apply it to your business. All right, I want to remind you, please subscribe on YouTube. Again, my kids continue to think I'm a nerd, and they will until I hit 1,000 subscribers there. Once I do, they'll think I am the coolest mom in the entire world. And don't you guys want that for me? Please go over there and do that. I want to remind you that we're streaming live. The reason I'm reminding you of this is because you can ask questions. Ask them. You've got experts on the show. I'm on the show. I'm an expert. But you've got experts on the show. And today's expert is Mickie Kennedy of eReleases.com. He's going to talk to us about how important it is to get your message out there and to use press releases to do that. So let me pull him up here. Mickie, where are you there? There you go. Hi, Mickie. How are you?
Hi, Ann. Great to be here.
Thank you so much. We discovered before we started the show that Mickie is just down the road from us in Baltimore County, Maryland. We usually get people from across the country or even across the world, so it's unique to have somebody close by. So, Mickie, tell everybody what you do. You've been doing it for 23 years.
Yes, I write and distribute press releases to the media. I started around 25 years ago when I was doing broadcast faxing to send out press releases. I saw journalists were starting to inquire and saying, could you just email us the release? Because we had a lot of tables and numbers and statistics. So light bulb went off and said, email is so much better than faxing. So I spent about a year working to ask journalists if they would receive press releases through email. At the time, most of them were like, yeah, that's great. That seems interesting. And so over the years, we've been sending press releases via email. At one point, PR Newswire came and approached us and said, why don't you also send your releases out through us? And we ran into a problem with the cost because PR Newswire charges about $1,000 to move a press release nationally. And, I made the argument that, we represent small businesses. They don't have that budget. And so we got a customized national distribution with PR Newswire that's included in our prices, which are substantially cheaper than that. Mostly because their salespeople aren't looking to work with people doing 2 to 4 releases a year, and small business owners just can't afford the rates that PR Newswire charges. So I always sort of say we act sort of as a co-op of small businesses, giving them access to the Newswire as well as that email distribution of press releases to the media.
That is hugely helpful to small businesses, because you're right. When you messaged, or when I first heard about you, I thought, well, no, that's going to be too expensive. I've seen PR Newswire. I've tried to get things out there, and it's so expensive. And then I looked at what you do, and I was really surprised by it. So
Right.
it's
Yeah,
very
we have a new
helpful.
customer special that starts at $199. So we try to make it affordable for people who are looking to do a PR campaign.
That's good. So tell me why people need to do a PR campaign. Why is it important?
Well, I think that PR works very effectively and can be extremely cost effective if you do it correctly and it works for you. PR doesn't work for everyone. And the thing is, it usually takes a series of 6 or more releases to do a proper PR campaign. And what you want to do is every press release be different. So you're approaching from a completely different angle or perspective. And one of the things that I do in my training is talk about what those should be. Like, one of them is analyzing your industry for blind spots. What is it that no one's talking about in your industry? Is that an opportunity? So you only know if you send a release out for something like that. Surveys, stats, data, the media loves. So I always say, try to do a survey or study. It could be your customers, it could be your leads. Another thing that you can do that works really effective for my clients is partner with a small industry association. Have them send the link of the survey to their members, and then you can co-brand the press release that the survey was you and them. So that's a great way to get some authority and interest with the media, because they're going to cover a trade association as well as you. And I also say, pepper your survey with a couple of quirky questions, because those are the ones that the media often loves. It's like, oh, you won't believe that 43% of all small businesses and manufacturing actually encounter this, or something like that. You really don't know unless you ask some questions that are sometimes out of left field.
Right. I love all of those, because I do marketing, and still many of the things you just said were things I don't know. And one of the things I tell my clients is, you don't know what you don't know. And so in general, we have this thing we call Anne's unsolicited advice. It's really valuable. It really is. But part of it comes with us saying things like, hey, you should hire an accountant. You should hire a bookkeeper instead of sending out your invoices on your own. Sounds small, but it makes a big difference, because people think, oh, well, I have QuickBooks, I can send that out. But you don't know what you don't know. So I love what I just learned, because I didn't know any of that. I didn't think about the fact that you should send it out in different ways. I've been sending my press releases out the same way every time. So you talked about the how, right, and what you're looking for. But let's talk a little bit about how PR and how it gives you credibility with your audience.
Right. So basically, when someone encounters an ad, they immediately know it's an ad. Their guard goes up, and they're just like, you can say whatever you want, but you've got someone who's very skeptical. However, when they read an article about someone, they get drawn in. And there's a credibility factor that an editor or someone saw this and is now spotlighting it and sharing it to you. It's almost like a discovery. And it's the same way as, in businesses, the best customers often come from referrals. And this is a way in which you're getting a referral from a news organization. There's an authority there, and people, follow that. And if the thing that my customers see is, when they get traffic from articles where an article's been written about them, often the people just come and buy. The conversion rate is very strong, because people say to themselves, I want, that sounds exciting. I want to go do business with that company. It's the same thing that happens with Shark Tank. When people appear on Shark Tank, people often get this sudden urge to want to own the product or buy it, and they're driven to it, and that's what comes from earned media, or an article about you, or coverage in the media, as opposed to an ad.
Right. And it makes total sense. And the number of times, as a matter of fact, when you came on today, I was already on the screen and I was reading a book. And in the book, I've been underlining and circling. But the circles are always the books I'm going to buy next. Why? Because they were mentioned in the book. It's always the same. If they were mentioned, I'm gonna go out and buy them. Same thing happens when I'm reading an article online. I'm gonna look at that a little closer. I'm gonna look at it deeper because it seems credible. It's much more credible than an ad.
Sure.
So, all right. So how do you make yourself irresistible to the media? And I'm going to preface this with, what if you're a plumber? Right? What if you're a plumber or HVAC? I mean, that's kind of boring. So how do you make yourself irresistible to the media?
Well, you have to sort of put yourself in the mind of the editor, and their job is to be a gatekeeper and find content that is going to excite and interest their readers. So if you're a plumber, for example, what is it that you're doing that is different? You mentioned USP before, unique selling proposition. What is it you do that's different than all the other plumbers? And I often tell people, if you do not have a USP in your business, solve that first before you go into PR, because you may have a business right now, it may produce some revenue, but I've got news for you. You're going to have trouble in the future if you don't develop a USP and align something that's unique. So if you're a plumber and you're doing something that's a little bit different in your market, or unique, that's an opportunity to share with the media, and hopefully they'll feel that their readers will find it of interest. That being said, the survey and study is a good one, where let's say you're a local plumber, you could talk to the Chamber of Commerce, maybe get them to share on their link or Facebook or something like that, a survey that you're doing, maybe about common plumbing issues in the area. Here in Baltimore, we have like freezing pipes occasionally and things like that happen. And I always say to include a couple really quirky little questions in the survey, because those are the things that tend to excite the media. They're like, yeah, this is sort of expected, but asking about hot tub plumbing, or something that's a little bit not something you encounter often, is one of those things that might interest the media and their readers.
Right. Actually, one thing that just occurred to me, we write this a lot, is the strange things people find in their septic system.
Right.
Somebody told me they found a prosthetic leg in a septic system. I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to figure out how that got there, but yes.
And you could see how a media person would find that really exciting and want to include that in their article. So
absolutely. All right. So how do you get regular local media coverage? How do we get it so that it happens that go back to the plumber or HVAC, how maybe they get the call to answer a question? For us, we have burgers and bands for suicide prevention, right? So how do I become the person that people call when they want to talk about mental health?
Right. So this is what I tell anybody that calls my business and says they're looking for local media. I say, you don't need to pay a service like ours to get local media pickup. In your area, there's probably less than 10 people who would write about you. It's usually a local paper. If you're lucky to have another secondary paper, could be a county paper or a smaller community paper. A business newspaper or magazine, like maybe you have Crane's Business or something that's local to you. You might have an online presence like patch.com or something like that. And there might be a TV or radio opportunity. Are there segments or shows on radio locally that spotlights local businesses? Do your research, find out who they are, and get their email address. And you're like, well, how do I do that? You just ask. Most newspapers and magazines are used to people calling in and asking for the contact information for a particular writer. At a radio or TV station, it's the producer or the booker that you're looking to reach, not the host there. So that's the difference for them. And once you have this list of under 10 people, you want to send an introductory email letting them know who you are, what you're doing right now that's really interesting, and hoping that they might want to share with their readers. Then, as you encounter more milestones or more ideas, you follow up with another email. You can do stuff like call out an article that they did that you thought was really well done. People love praise. They love for you to prove that you're actually a reader and not someone who's just always wanting. And
Right.
another thing you can do is, if you notice in your industry, or say you follow a competitor in a different market and you notice that they're getting news coverage on a particular subject, you can just let them know that, say, hey, I'm seeing this new trend in my industry. I thought it might be of interest to you to cover here. And I say do that even if there's not a logical approach for you being included in it, because the people are going to appreciate that you gave them a good tip. And the next time you ask for a favor and have something that's newsworthy or interesting, they're much more likely to consider it. And like I said, for most people, this is like 4 to 6 contacts. It's really easy to reach out to them, quarterly or, every other month or something like that. And that's really effective. And that's how, after a while, when they have a plumbing story or something, they know exactly who to go to. They'll do a search in their email, pull up your email, and reach out to you.
That is really good advice. And I love what you said, because I think it's true. And some people will say it's manipulative, but it's not manipulative. The idea of calling or emailing or texting, whatever you do, and saying, I liked the article that you wrote on such and such, it makes a big difference. And I'll tell you why. Once in a while, I will see somebody, they'll reach out to me about my podcast, and they say, I want to be on your podcast, and I think I'd be a great guest. And I'm like, well, what would make you a great guest? And they'll say, I'm walking around the world. Are you an entrepreneur? No, I don't have a job. I don't own a business. Okay, so how would you work with my people, right? And if they can't tell me, they haven't watched the show, they haven't paid attention, they haven't heard it. And so it makes you go, well, you really don't belong, and you're kind of trying to trick me here. But if you really have read something and you really do know that you'd be a great fit, it makes a big difference to me. I mean, and it's not stroking my ego to say you've watched it. It's that, oh, okay, they know that they fit. They can see where they fit. And even if it's in left field, I've had people call me with some odd requests, but I'm like, oh yeah, actually you're right. An entrepreneur would be interested in that, right? So I think it is a very helpful tip to reach out to them in a more personal way.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's talk about how is it going to help you close more sales, both online and offline, to do this? How is this going to help you?
Right. So the earned media that you get, I already mentioned that the traffic you get from those articles generally are people who convert higher. They're more likely to buy from you. But you can also share your media clips on your website. Some people have their clips online, and when someone's searching a website and saying, this isn't Amazon, can I trust them with my credit card? They see all these articles, they go, wow, this is a reputable place. This is not, a scam company. Their guard goes down and they feel a lot more comfortable. And so they're more likely to convert and buy from you. I have a offline company that did something very similar. It was a carpet company in New Jersey, and they did terribly with us. They did 5 releases, no pickup. We were working with them and found out that their enemy is the big box home improvement stores. So we did a press release about a local carpet company having to compete against the big box retailers. And it resonated so well that almost every floor trade publication picked it up. At least 8 or 9 did. I didn't realize there were that many at the time. But they were really wild about it. And one of them offered them a marketing column saying, we're getting so much positive feedback about about this column about marketing, it's obviously a subject our readers are interested in. And that was a blind spot in that industry. I don't know if it still is, but we still mix up releases and try different things, but we do make sure that marketing is part of our arsenal going forward with them. They took and printed out their clippings from all these floor trade publications. They also got picked up in local newspapers as well, and put all that together, made a big binder of all these glossy color photos. And when they're giving someone a quote, they say, look, we're not going to come in as the cheapest. They used to. That was how they competed. They're like, we tried to figure out what Home Depot and Lowe's is going to charge and come in a little bit less. Now they try to come in about anywhere from 7 to 15% higher. And they say, look, we're not going to come in as the cheapest, but we use much superior padding than everyone else. And, we pay our employees benefits, and they stay with us for years. If you use like a Home Depot or Lowe's, they don't know what contractor they're going to use next week. It's just pick up contractors who's available. And the padding isn't the best quality. And here, they start browsing through and showing them. We've been picked up by Floor Trade Today, Floor Covering Weekly. All of these publications recognize us, just a small carpet company in New Jersey, as being very effective in doing something, worth noticing in the industry, and no one else you get a quote with is. And they now convert at about 20% higher than they used to. And like I said, they're trying to come in 7 to 15% higher than they used to as well.
That's great. And, so you brought it up, putting it on your website, having the binder, putting it on your social media. One thing that we do with our guests is we give them several 2 or 3 minute clips that then they put out, and they don't just share the podcast. That's great. And you don't want to share the podcast, I'd love you to, right? But we give them those clips so that they can share their bit of expertise they can put on their social media. And yes, my logo's up in the corner there, but it helps them a lot to have that information. I've been on this show, I've been on that show, I've been here, or I've been on the TV, or I've been on the cover of the newspaper, whatever it is. It helps a lot to be able to say, I am the expert. You're doing a lot of podcasting right now. You're going to a lot of different podcasts and being on them. We talk a lot here about being the expert in the room, right? When you are the one who's in the newspaper, you're the expert in the room. You're the person that people go, oh, well, clearly he knows what he's talking about. Otherwise, they wouldn't be talking to him. Right. So how do you do it for yourself? You've got press releases out there. How are you marketing yourself, just out of curiosity?
Well, I am doing a lot of podcasting. I feel like that's probably the most synergistic with what I do with press releases. I find that promoting myself through press releases isn't very effective. The media doesn't like to cover stuff very transparent. So you don't see news about a lot of PR firms in the media, and you don't see a lot about outside of trade publications, people talking about press release companies either. So I feel like podcast interviews is a great opportunity for me to get out there, share my expertise, let people know about my company, about press releases in general. And that works very well. There's also paid advertising that we do through Google search and remarketing and stuff like that, and blogging. I still blog after more than 12 to 15 years I've been doing it. I've stopped and started over the years, and the blog posts have gotten longer because it seems like Google really wants more in-depth articles. And being an expert, it gives you the opportunity to drill in and give a lot more information.
Absolutely. Blogging, I love that you blog even though you own a company that does press releases, right? Because blogging is so good it's good for a ton of reasons. Your customers are going to like it. When it's out there in the world, they're going to be interested in it. And it's your point of view, so it's interesting to them. But it's also good for your SEO, your search engine optimization. People find you that way. It helps Google to realize that you're for real, right?
Right. And that's a good reason also to put your press releases on your own website as well. So if you have a newsroom, put your press releases there, because that's all content that the search engines can find you, and people can find your website through that. And some people just never get around to creating a newsroom, but they have a blog. So I'm like, at the very least, put your press releases on your blog, if nothing else, because again, it's very keyword dense and rich content, and you're the originating author of it. So the fact that it may appear out there in other places doesn't really matter. You're going to be recognized as the source in most applications of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's very, very important. All right, let's talk a little bit about books and what. Well, I'll go first, and actually, because you came, and I generally am sitting at my desk and I'm rushing through one thing to another. I started a new book. It's called Strength and Stillness. This way, Strength and Stillness, and it's about meditation and taking time and slowing down. And if anybody has met me, they know slowing down is not something I'm good at, except for when I'm running, not that fast. So let's talk a little bit about what the book you picked. You said 80/20 of sales and marketing.
Right. Yeah, by Perry Marshall. It's basically talks about the Pareto principle, which applies to so many different things, that there's often an 80/20. A lot of people find that, 80% of their business might come from 20% of their customer base. And sometimes if you focus on that, you can find more opportunities. Like, how can I get more customers like that are generally the most profitable, and usually the easiest to serve. But with sales and marketing, there's so many applications for that. When you create an ad, you generally split test several different ads, but it's basically, after a while, you realize that everything's 80/20. After a while, you'll figure out that this ad produces 80% more of the results than these other ads and things like that. So there's just so many ways in which the world can be broken down through the principles of 80/20. It doesn't always fit perfectly to the 80%, 20%, but there's so many ways in which you can focus on that. One of the things that he says in there is, look at where 80% of the problem customers are in your business, and you'll often find that they're not in the 80% of your revenue. They're often in the 20%, and you're much better off separating yourself from those types of customers by either not attracting them in the future, or maybe even firing them over time. That you would be better served focusing on the people that are the most profitable and the easiest to serve.
Absolutely. It's something that we have found in our business. And it's hard when you bring on a new employee to get them to understand this point, that as long as we know, as long as we can see that, yeah, this customer's costing me a lot of money through time, right? Through aggravation. Sure. As soon as we let that customer go, when we let that customer go, almost always I get 3 clients afterwards. It's like I let them go and I have more time to bring on new clients.
Right.
So it's huge to be able to do that. It really is. All right, you have a seminar coming up, or a class coming up. Tell me about your class.
So it is a master class that I created. It's a video training on basically the strategies that work for my customers. I sort of looked at the customers that get media pickup time and time again, and I saw similarities. One of the things I'd mentioned before was surveys and studies. That's one of the strategies that's in there, but there's 7 others that are in there. And basically I break it down and explain how it works, how you can use it, and basically build yourself a PR campaign where you know that you're trying different angles, and these are angles that have worked for a lot of people. So the likelihood of it working for you is much better as a result for that. And that's completely free at eReleases.com/plan.
Thank you. Yeah, and if you're a business owner, it's so important to constantly be learning. I get up at 5 a.m. mostly so I can sit down and learn. I used to think it was a waste of my time to get up at 5 a.m. and just not head right into work. I thought, no. If you're going to get up at 5 a.m., sit down at the desk, start working. But now I use that time to learn, and it makes a huge difference. So this is a perfect time to go and take this class.
Right. It's just an hour, and I guarantee that if you watch it, you will know more about press release strategy than most PR firms. And so you can basically empower yourself to create a winning PR campaign without having to pay large money to a PR firm. And you should have much superior results by doing that.
That is great. So I'm definitely going to go take the class, because I just said to you, we do burgers and bans for suicide prevention, and trying to get coverage for it has been really hard. But I think we're just missing out on so many things. We get a lot, clearly we own a digital marketing agency, so social media, it's pretty good. But in the general press, we're not getting the coverage that we would like to get. So, all right. Hey, you stick around just a minute, Mickie. I'm going to come right back to you. I want to tell everybody what's coming up next.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Next week we have Rich Perry. If you've been watching the show for a while, you know that Rich Perry is my guest who came on. He is a coach. He is a phenomenal, I just love him. I follow him on Twitter. He and I have become friends on Twitter. He came on, and within the first minute, the internet went down. Came back up. He kept talking. I kept talking. We kept trying to do it. Go back down. Back up. Talk. Down. Over and over again, and he stuck it out. He's coming on next week. We're going to talk about so many things, but perseverance is one of them, because he's really darn good at that. I do want to remind you again, please do subscribe. That helps me. Subscribe not just on YouTube. Yes, I joke around about not being, being that nerdy mom, but the truth is I am a small business owner, and if you subscribe on our podcast, whether you subscribe where you're listening to the podcast, whether you subscribe on YouTube, that helps me a lot. And if you have time, can leave us a review, that helps me a lot. Actually, that's another tip for you. If you're not asking your customers to leave you reviews, you're missing out. Ask your customers to leave reviews. They want to help you. They love you. Let them love you online. That will help you a lot. All right, let me come back. Mickie, let me pull you back in here. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful having you on.
It was great being here. I appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. And you stick around, because I have some questions for you I want to talk to you about, possibly being a guest blogger. That would be great. So hang on one second. Everybody else, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.